much. And today I'm actually honored. I wasn't expecting Professor McElvaine. Sir, if you will, you come say a few words for us. Thank you.
Thank you. I just heard about this yesterday, and I was in the Atlanta airport and decided to sign up to come, and I haven't even been home. They said to wear a red for Wisconsin, but that I didn't have anything red with me, so I didn't. But I want to agree to begin with what the previous speaker was saying. It seems to me that this sort of divide that I guess is symbolized by the space between us up here and you out there is really an artificial divide. And the people who are out there, unless you are somebody who's making like $500,000 a year, ought to really be up here. I'm a historian and I wanted to speak a little bit about history. Now, I want to talk, for instance, and it's easy to point out things that unions have done wrong and continue to do wrong. But if you look at the history, you find, and maybe this is just a coincidence, but during the period when unions were strong, when sensible government programs like the GI Bill of Rights were in effect, when there were sensible regulations on what corporations and financial institutions could do, from the 1940s into the 1970s, that was the period when the United States saw the building up of the largest middle class we've ever seen. Those policies, including anti-union policies, including changing progressive taxation, leveling it down, cutting the taxes on the very rich, removing government regulations, starting in the late 70s and early 80s, and ever since then, we have really seen the middle class shrinking. I see somebody out there doing a fiddle like, it would be nice if you just at least listen and consider whether what I'm saying makes sense. Where we've seen, you just say it doesn't. Well, let me tell you that at the moment, the top 0.01% of Americans gets 7% of the total income. This is higher than it's ever been in American history. Not only is that questionable morally, but the really key thing is what it does to the economy. Our economy is based on mass consumption. And if almost all the income is concentrated at the very top, people simply don't have the money to buy the stuff to make the economy go. People like virtually everyone here, because I doubt almost anyone here is making that sort of money. And yet, it goes more and more to the top. You can look at the graphs. It's been going more and more to the top since 1980. I want to mention one other thing.
All of our enemies.
I want to make one more point historically, and that's kind of more recent, talking about what needs to be done in terms of the tax rates and so forth. What was proposed last year was to raise the top marginal tax rate, not taxes again on probably anybody here or almost anybody here, back to where they were in the 1990s. When that was passed in 1994, it was passed with every single so-called free market economist saying it would lead to economic disaster, every Republican in Congress voting against it, predicting it would lead to economic disaster. Instead, it was followed by the most sustained period of prosperity in American history and ultimately a balanced budget. When we moved in the other direction, beginning in 2001, and cut the taxes on the very rich, we started seeing exactly the opposite happen. Nobody except the very rich has gotten an improvement in income since 2001. We've seen massive budget deficits growing. This sort of thing has been tried before. I mean, this is what happened in the 1920s. Don't have any government regulation. Don't tax the rich. Just let them get richer and richer. The economy collapsed in 1929. It happened again in 2008, and yet people who are manipulating financial instruments, doing absolutely nothing to earn money, are the ones making the most money in the country, and they're just continuing to do it. It's like, well, it didn't work in the 1920s, it didn't work in this past decade, why don't we just do it again? Well, you'd think after 2 collapses that people would have enough sense not to do it again, and I hope everybody here will wake up and realize that. Thank you.